really excited to be here. I hope you can hear me. I typically kind of have that voice that travels after many years of competitive cheerleading and all of that fun stuff. So my name is Casey Miller. I'm the Director of Recruitment with Enterprise Holdings for Arizona. I'll tell you a little bit about the company, and then we'll kind of jump into the meat that you all are here for. Enterprise Holdings operates Enterprise Rent-A-Car, Alamo Rent-A-Car, and National Car and brands on the rental car side. We also rent large trucks to commercial partners. We do a lot with insurance partners. We actually have a car share program, which we have actually initiated for the state here on campus. So we've got 2 vehicles parked here, one at the Student Union, the other at the Du Center, if I'm saying that correctly. I think it's some type of athletic environment. So we've got a couple different vehicles parked on campus here for you. Basically, your opportunity to rent those vehicles on an hourly basis if you don't have transportation here. We are expanding internationally at an amazing rate. I have been with the company for 8 years. I started actually in Miami, my hometown, in 2006 in our management training program. Went through our management training program, which is basically entrepreneurial training, getting you ready to run your own enterprise store. So sales, service, management, marketing, everything that goes into being a successful business owner. Spent about 4 years in our rental branches, made my way up to a branch manager, 2 years in that role, and at 4 years with the company, moved into recruiting. So I've been doing that now for the last 4 years. When I started, we were in 5 countries. And today to say that we're in over 60 is amazing. I could not have imagined when I accepted this offer for a rental car company. As an English major out of school, never took a business course, 30 minutes, and I could not wait to drop the business course. It was the professor, not the subject. But, really excited that obviously my career path took me here. I absolutely love what I'm doing. I added in an extra freebies slide for you here at the end. We'll talk about some of the things that have really made me happy about choosing Enterprise and some of those really being values. So we'll hit on that real quickly as we wrap up transferable skills. But really wanted to talk about this topic with you all tonight because, again, English major, studied mass comm as a minor, athlete kind of throughout my entire life, competitor throughout my entire life, but I didn't know how to put those things together into a career. I am that person who is interested in everything under the sun. I actually started my educational career in medicine, went through 5 different majors, much to the delight of my career counselors, and landed in English, truthfully, my senior year. Most of my credits were there. I've always been great at writing papers, and I wanted to get out in 4 years. So that worked. And then I graduated and kind of went, okay, what next? And I was in restaurants and bartending. I had done some volunteerism. I had done some student leadership in organizations, but I didn't know how to put that together. So that's kind of where we're at tonight and what I want to hopefully help some of you with. You might have heard the term transferable skills. You might not know what on earth that means or have identified yet if you have any of those skills. That's what we will start with. Kind of running through just what we'll talk about tonight, the definition of transferable skills. I've got a quick activity for you. It doesn't require much effort, I promise. Trying this into what employers want and why this matters. Identifying what you possess and how you can package that. And then the way to capitalize on those transferable skills. So after you've identified what your skills are and kind of where you got those skills, how does that tie into getting a job? How does that tie into getting an internship or mattering? As it goes forward from college to career. So this is a lot of words, but it's easy to understand. Transferable skills. They're the skills that you acquire through a variety of different things. Work experience, education, volunteer experience, life experience. And I add on to this any type of athletic programs you've been in, intramurals, just even kind of pick up games with your friends, student organizations, volunteer clubs, things of that nature. These experiences that are beneficial to an employer but maybe aren't directly related to the position to which you're applying. So there are these kind of soft skills, maybe you've heard that word, that you kind of gain through your life experience, through your college experience that we don't necessarily put as a must-have. And in order to apply for this job or be hired for a management trainee, you must have great communication. But that is something, certainly in a management role, that is somewhat implied. You know that you're going to need to be a good communicator in a management position. So these are some ways that you can be able to gather those skills. So here comes our activity. What I'm going to ask you all to do, I should back that up for a moment, is raise your hand when I read one of these that applies to you. Then I'll ask you actually to keep your hand raised. Okay, we've got a few on here that we'll go through. So please raise your hand if you've had a job in which you've been paid for the past. Awesome. Keep that up. If you've participated in an internship, raise your hand. Keep your hands up if you had that job. So everyone should have their hands up that did before. Participated in an internship. Your hand is being added now to those hands that are up. Volunteered your time and efforts. adding to the group here. Held a leadership role in a club organization on campus. Played a sport on a college team, intramurals included. Keep those hands up if you've had them raised. You've been involved in a student club or organization on campus, or you've studied coursework related to the field in which you want to work. So if you raise your hand for any of those things, raise them up nice and high so we can all take a look around the room. And what you'll see is that the majority of your classmates in here have their hands raised. In fact, I can't point out anyone who does not. So what that all means is that coming in today, we all have transferable skills. There is some experience that you all have had in your college experience, in your volunteerism, in your athletic training, or even in your classes that has prepared you in some regard for the workplace. Let's talk about what those things are. I'm really bad at following my notes when I do presentations. Anytime I train, I say, I promise I'll hit everything on the slides, it just might not be in order. So a couple of things I wanted to make sure we hit on here. So a couple of the skills that employers want to see, and I'm going to list them for you, there's a lot of that, but a lot of these, again, are kind of common sense. If you're going to be in a management position, if you're going to be in the business world, even if you're an accounting major, and you're going to be an accountant, sure, some of your work might be independent, but you're still going to be completing this work for, whether it be an internal customer, an external customer, so you will be working in a team. The ability to communicate verbally, again, both internal and external contacts highlighted here. The ability to make decisions and solve problems. The ability to obtain and process information. Plan, organize, and prioritize your work. Analyze qualitative data. Technical knowledge. Proficiency with computer software programs. This is where it tends to get a little bit more field specific. There are certain projects or softwares that you'll need to know going to certain fields. I've spent a lot of time on college campuses these last few weeks, and Excel has come up in correlation with not only just knowing the program, but the ability to use that program to take data, analytics, and kind of spit that back out in a way that makes sense to an audience. So this is a tip. Create or edit written reports, and the ability to sell or influence others. And we'll take a minute here in another couple slides, and we'll talk specifically about sales, because certainly very soon out of college, about 4 months out of college, I accepted this position with Enterprise. And if you've ever talked to myself or any of our recruiters or seen our position advertised, we do talk about our management training position being a sales role. Coming from the restaurant business, being paid on tips, the last thing I wanted to do was commission, the last thing I wanted to do was sales. I never saw myself as a salesperson. So I'm going to spend a few minutes on that, because there's probably a lot of you who are going, yeah, I'm definitely not going into sales. So now that you've kind of listed some of these skills, you know that some of those must have hit with you, because all of us raised hands. So some of those you probably saw in there and go, yeah, that's me. I can communicate very well. I do work very well on my team. I'm really great at analyzing data. So where have you got those skills from? What activities helped you to create this kind of skill set? And where did you get these skills to possess? And we'll walk through in a minute how this applies to the interview process. So team structure, anybody who raised their hand for athletics, anybody who raised their hand for group projects and classes, and raised their hand for volunteerism even, or student organizations. You got teamwork experience in those environments. Communication, certainly any presentations that you've done in classes, any time that you've had to speak to a group of people, maybe you've been a captain on a team, or you've organized an intramural sport. Your communication was key to being able to accomplish your task. Decision-making and problem-solving, some of these will start to be repetitive, and you'll start to see some trends here. Information processing, so classes, lectures, conferences, on-the-job training. This is something that is becoming, I think, more and more important to employers, not just the ability for you all to take direction. I think that many employers would agree that our management teams can very clearly give you the expectations of, step 1 through 5, with what we want you to do to complete a task. But it's more desirable if we have a candidate or a student, whether it be an internship or career opportunity, that we can give some instruction to and say, you have this length of time to complete this task. Here's what we want our end goal to be. Go ahead. And you to be able to take that information that you've got, putting it together, and at the end of this day, or 4 hours, or whatever that deadline time was, to be able to come out with something that accomplishes that end goal. Planning and organization, You guys are all in school right now, managing multiple classes, I'm sure. So you are doing a lot of planning and a lot of organization already. Looking at your calendars in terms of even just balancing college and social life. Maybe you're not involved in anything else right at this moment. Maybe you're working and going to school. You're part of an organization and going to school. All of that goes through planning, organization, and prioritization. Analysis of data. I think this is one of those that initially for me, when I looked at transferable skills, having graduated college and going through a similar exercise myself, I couldn't really place if or where I had ever done this. To me, deciding on classes, deciding on my major, as I mentioned, kind of was a big thing. But deciding on classes for me was always kind of easy. Again, I'm really interested in pretty much everything, with the exception of accounting. Not a numbers person. And so it was pretty easy for me to choose my classes. Like I said, I kind of ended up falling into English because I wanted to get out in 4 years, so that stuff was easy for me. But think a little bit further than that about maybe some work experiences. If you've ever done inventory for an employer and looked at some of those trends, if you have been in an employment engagement and looked at some of maybe the consumer trends, what are customers complaining about? How can we fix this problem so that it's no longer a problem for our customers and they have a better experience? If you have been in class projects, or maybe you've worked with that certain somebody who just really doesn't tend to carry their weight, how in your second group project with that person have you changed your behavior, understanding that you might have to take on a bigger workload and plan for that. So a lot of that analysis of data. Technical knowledge, all of you really have this already. I mean, it's just the day and age that we live in. So how can you make sure that if you're completing an online application or writing a cover letter that you demonstrate your technical knowledge? That's a whole other topic for spelling and proofreading. We'll leave that for another day, or for Ron. Written reporting, so certainly your note-taking, your papers, your observations for research. If any of this for any of you correlates to this analysis of data, if you've ever given the opportunity, even in class projects, to take case studies where you have, large kind of metrics, qualitative, quantitative information, and again, had to find those trends, had to find those patterns, had to find these business solutions, and then present those solutions and why does A equal B? Why is this your solution based on this information? And sales. I told you we used them as a tag on this one. So sales tends to be just sales. Sales tends to be scary for a lot of students when we talk about sales. But when we take away that word and we talk about influencing others, persuading others, convincing others, you see a lot more students nodding heads and saying, yeah, I've done that, but I've never sold anything. And I'll tell you guys that I was absolutely that student. I was in restaurants, I was in bartending, I upsold all the time, but I didn't think that I was actually in sales. Like I said, I didn't want a career in sales. I didn't think I was going to be good at sales. And those are a lot of the reasons that when I speak with students, they're scared about a sales opportunity. They're scared about a sales job. They don't think they can do it. They never have before. Or there's the stereotype that all sales are 100% commission-based. That's not how it is in our organization, and I know that for many management training programs, for many career opportunities and even internships, sales is a part of what you do, but it's not everything you do. So if you have ever led others, you have persuaded people, you have sold. If you have ever suggested a group topic in a class presentation, you have convinced others into your way of thinking, you have sold. If you have ever changed a friend's mind or a family member's mind who had an idea that they were really stuck on it, maybe you just wanted it to come on to your way of thinking, or you thought that you maybe had a better idea, you've convinced somebody, you've sold. No matter what profession you go into, you will be selling something. Say that again, no matter what profession you go into, you will be selling something. I had a manager and a mentor tell me this early in my career, and it was kind of a hard pill to swallow because I was sort of looking for an out. I didn't really want to do sales. I'm good at sales, but I didn't really think it was something that I was passionate about. I didn't really think that it was something that related to everything. I thought that I could get away from it. So I give some examples to you all of kind of the professions that you might think may not have anything to do with sales. Teaching. My younger sister was a teacher for a long time. She went from teaching into sales, and I got to help her with her resume on how could she tell this potential employer that she had sold. Parents, and I'm a parent of a 3.5-year-old, are entrusting you with their children to care for, to teach, to take care of while they are doing work or whatever they're doing, home responsibilities, etc. So the teacher then has to convince these parents that they are capable, that they are competent, that they're able to give their child the education that they need to make them successful in the world. That teacher is selling to these parents. Also, arguably selling to students. Trying to get 3.5-year-olds all to listen is not very easy and not a job that I envy. In medicine, selling your patient on the ability to treat their ailment, the fact that you have the knowledge, maybe there are multiple options to fix diagnosis, kind of solutions or problems for them, and that doctor might feel that solution A is the way to go, and the patient wants to go with solution B. So selling that patient into the best option for them. Finance, certainly a lot of you in this room can probably see that. Selling the company on your integrity, capability in managing their money, so the company or the client. Arts, selling your audience on the experience to engage them, to make them want to come back, to give them that real authentic feeling that just captures them, and kind of that pull that doesn't let you go. Like I said, I'm interested in everything, and I love art too. So there's a lot of examples about sales where it's not just about a product. It's not just about presenting a product to an audience, convincing them that they need this product more than anything else, and refusing to take no. That's not necessarily what sales are. And maybe some of you have been in that type of environment. You've done some of that, maybe door-to-door sales, where you've sold products like the telecom sales, things of that nature. But for a lot of you, you haven't had that experience. Maybe yet, maybe ever. But again, that leadership, the group projects, the ability to sort of be that leader amongst your friends and persuading others and convincing others is certainly a skill that you have gained that you'll be able to add into your portfolio when you go to interview. So let's move on to your experiences and how you can best package them for an employer. So we did this test to kind of see that, yes, you do have skills. We listed those skills so you can be aware of some of the skills that you possess. And now it's time to take that to the next level. How did you get those skills? This is where your story comes in. With Enterprise, we actually do behavioral interviewing. So customer service is a really big part of what we do. And one of the questions that we ask pretty much every candidate for really almost any position is to give an example of a time that you have gone above and beyond for a customer. We kind of invite you to use that term customer loosely, especially if there's no paid work experience. Maybe it is the organization that you were doing volunteer work for. Maybe it was the people that are on the team of intramural sports that you coach, but a time that you went above and beyond. So your story, your answer to number 2 of how you acquire these skills is where the answer to that question lies. That is your story to answer that time that you went above and beyond. Because as you think about how you acquire those skills, you're going to think about the examples of those times that you had to go above and beyond to show customer service, or had to change your style of communication in order to get others to pay attention to you, to listen to you, to engage in the message that you had. An added bonus would be to understand how those skills made you successful in the role of the organization that you were in, because I think every employer could agree that we don't just want to hear a story, we want to hear that resolution. We want to know how you can take that story and make it happen again. And if you understand the impact you had, you're going to have a vested interest into that result. And hopefully it came out positively. I suggest we use positive resolution stories for interviews. And you'll be able to do that again then in any other environment that you're in. Understanding how they relate to the position in which you're applying for. So again, there are many, many things that we listed on here. Everything from teamwork to technical skills. Excel, I kind of brought up the point that a lot of employers have been talking a lot in kind of the events that I've been at, conversations I've had kind of sidebar from career fairs about the importance of Excel. I will tell you that if you interview for Enterprise for the internship or the management training program, I will never ask you about your Excel techniques. It's not that I don't care, I think that it's great, and at a point in your career it will absolutely become useful. But when we talk about the ability to process knowledge as being one of those skills, that ability to sort of think on your own, I want to hire the candidate who can manage those customer service situations, who can go out and communicate effectively with a team, with an internal client, with an external client, and can teach themselves Excel if they find the need for it and they don't know it. So maybe you're not going to develop stories about how important Excel has been for you and how applicable it is to our management training internship, because you'll see through reading our job description that it's not necessarily something that you need. It's not necessarily something that's related to us. So the importance of matching your skill set, having these flexible stories, looking at all of your skills, and maybe even grouping them. If I'm applying for a sales job, I want to talk specifically about these skills. If I'm applying for an accounting position, I want to look specifically at these things. If I'm applying for an analytics role, well, that Excel is probably going to be important. So that's definitely going to be a kind of different grouping of skills that you're going to be talking about. But I suggest that you kind of practice your pitch for each of those things. Once you understand those skills, you know how you acquired them, you've got that story specifically of how you obtained that skill. You understand how that skill relates to the organization. You practice telling that story. I'll give you a tip. I call it the mirror trick, and I tell all of our employees this too when they're getting ready for promotions. Stand in front of a mirror. Ask yourself your 5 or 10 typical interview questions. Look at yourself, eye to eye, in a mirror. It's really uncomfortable, I promise. You're going to think I'm crazy. And practice your answer. The thing is that you know these examples. You've worked through this. You understand that story when your team was losing by 3 points. And all you had to do was score a field goal. You just had to get close enough to get a field goal. And you were the person to rally the troops, rally the team, and really give the pep talk to that kicker and say, it's coming to you. This is all coming down to you, so get ready. We're going to run the ball. We're going to get you set. You know that story. So trying to tell yourself that same story, looking at yourself eye to eye, which is very uncomfortable and weird, you're going to go, well, we were down by 3 points. We knew that we just needed a field goal. So I rallied the team and blah, 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 blah. Don't let yourself do that. The more that you practice, the less nerves you're going to have in an interview. And I'm not going to steal thunder because someone's talking about interview tips. But just as a kind of personal suggestion, I have done that for every interview that I have prepared for. And certainly there's points in the interview where I can hear myself on that right track. And because I've practiced, there's points in the interview where I can hear myself sort of wandering, and I'm able to bring myself back. So that's a quick tip there. So by preparing yourself to know your strengths and weaknesses, practicing your delivery in each of these things, you'll feel more comfortable when you're selling yourself to a potential employer. That's the importance of transferable skills. That's how it applies to your interview. And here's your tip, your kind of freebies on the things that I wish I knew when I was interviewing, when I was looking for career opportunities. Number 1, a great salesperson. Spend some time on that tonight. Don't underestimate it. Thank you, everybody. I'm really excited to be here. I hope you can hear me. I typically kind of have that voice that travels after many years of competitive cheerleading and all of that fun stuff. So my name is Casey Miller. I'm the Director of Recruitment with Enterprise Holdings for Arizona. I'll tell you a little bit about the company, and then we'll kind of jump into the meat that you all are here for. Enterprise Holdings operates Enterprise Rent-A-Car, Alamo Rent-A-Car, and National Car Rental brands on the rental car side. We also rent large trucks to commercial partners. We do a lot with insurance partners. We actually have a car share program, which we have actually initiated for the state here on campus. So we've got 2 vehicles parked here, one at the Student Union, the other at the Du Bois Center, if I'm saying that correctly. I think it's some type of athletic environment. So we've got a couple different vehicles parked on campus here for you. Basically, your opportunity to rent those vehicles on an hourly basis if you don't have transportation here. We are expanding internationally at an amazing rate. I have been with the company for 8 years. I started actually in Miami, my hometown, in 2006 in our management training program. Went through our management training program, which is basically entrepreneurial training, getting you ready to run your own enterprise store. So sales, service, management, marketing, everything that goes into being a successful business owner. Spent about 4 years in our rental branches, made my way up to a branch manager, 2 years in that role, and at 4 years with the company, moved into recruiting. So I've been doing that now for the last 4 years. When I started, we were in 5 countries. And today to say that we're in over 60 is amazing. I could not have imagined when I accepted this offer for a rental car company as an English major out of school, never took a business course, 30 minutes, and I could not wait to drop the business course. It was the professor, not the subject. But, really excited that obviously my career path took me here. I absolutely love what I'm doing. I added in an extra free